Okay, so this is the little bit before we start, and we're less than a minute in. And no, there's no word on the fridge tonight, mostly just because I couldn't decide what to do. So as people are coming in, and as people are seeing that the tweet is there and bits and pieces, and people are joining, yes, we are going to talk about the news that came out of GB today. We are going to do it, but. Just be prepared. We're probably not going to say anything massively controversial one way or the other. But of course, this is a show about opinions. So we're going to mention it. However, mostly why we're here, for the usual reason. So let's let everybody get in. Everything get started. And the other thing we need to do as well is get the notes up. As well, we definitely need our notes out for this one. So we've got our notes certainly about the national. There we go. There we go. Job done. I don't know what that's referring to immediately, Jamie, but I will. If that's the percentage of beer you're drinking, mate, then you're doing very, very well for a Wednesday night. We'll just give everyone a moment just to get in. I started the thing late. As well because of the most ridiculous reasons. I suddenly sat everything set up. I was ready to go and suddenly realised I hadn't actually plugged in the laptop. Not my best of plans. Such is life. Just going to move a few bits and pieces. Hopefully I'm still there. Saying my connection is unstable. That's not very good. We don't like that. Either way. Right. That can go away. Because the joy, of course, is that we can all use the laptop for everything rather than having to use the big blue tablet. Things have changed on the BOTW. Right. I think we can probably start get rocking and rolling. Oh boy, I'll explain why I seem a bit lethargic in a minute. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary. It is Wednesday night, it is 8 p.m. and welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell. We are here once again as we are every Wednesday throughout the NIHL season to bring you all of the news, action, and views from across all the parts of the National Ice Hockey League structure. We focus on the National Division. That is our bread and butter. That is our home port. But we, of course, make sure to have a look at absolutely any. Before we even start, I normally have started doing a bit of housekeeping at the beginning of these things. Before we even start there, I'm going to apologise right now because I'm a little bit soporific is the best way to describe this. But as it's Wednesday, we need to have our usual hockey chat. Muggins here is not a smart man. So I've had the day off today. I went Christmas shopping with the wife, and then I went to the Brazilian restaurant in town. And Brazilian restaurants, for those of you familiar with them, basically just kind of continuously serve you food until you tell them to stop. So I've eaten my own body weight in cooked meats today. So if I seem a bit slow on the uptake, I'm apologising now. I'm functioning at half speed, and it's all my own fault. So there is a bit of housekeeping here at the beginning of the What's Current stream. Now you can, because we're live on YouTube now, having migrated across fully. But we've got the chat function on the side of the screen. Questions, comments, anything you kind of want to chuck into the discussion, please do. This is not a monologue. This is a conversation between all of us here as we chat about the thing that we love most, which is British ice hockey. But of course, if you are sticking bits in there, please do remember the golden rule, which is DBAD. Don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's thoughts, feelings, and opinions as we go. The conversation is great. I love pulling bits and pieces out of the chat to talk about. Do remember, of course, as well, if you can't make the show and you're watching this back and you want to send something in for us to chat about, please do send it in. Tweet it to us. The DMs are open over on the Twitter account at BannersOTW. Happy to kind of discuss those bits and pieces as we go. The other thing, of course, to mention is the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. That is where my writing goes up. We've focused for the last nearly 12 years on the Basingstoke Bison player, Cummings player, goings, match night reports, and the latest one from this weekend, a massive weekend in Basingstoke in terms of some of the context of the season so far. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's up there. Saturday's game against Telford is on the website now, as well as the Hockey Stories series. There is a new Hockey Stories interview coming out this Friday, and I'll tell you a little bit about who that's with later on in the show, but a bunch of stuff over there on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Bits and pieces out of the way. The one thing we'll start off with the trade to talk about, of course, is the fact that playoff tickets are on sale. The Final Four weekend in Coventry over the weekend of the 15th and 16th of April 2023 has gone on sale. Jamie, of course, has stuck it in the chat. The fact there is a 12.5% booking fee on the tickets feels a little bit steep. Now, the one thing, of course, we can be certain of is the fact that for the last couple of years, and it's not a case of us knocking the Elite League for the sake of knocking the Elite League, but certainly last year the Elite League made a real pig's ear of their playoff weekend. This year, they appear to have made a bit of a better thing, but and I still do believe it that the NIHL weekend does provide better value for money for the very, very simple reason that you have 4 competitive games. For those people not familiar, at the Elite League weekend, you have the 2 semi-finals on the Saturday, and your early game on the Sunday is a 3rd and 4th place playoff that nobody wants to play in, and everybody's hungover whilst they're playing it. At the NIHL weekend, the early game to be played Sunday at midday is the Division 1 National Final 1 South. Now, this year, 2022, at finals weekend, we got an absolute corker of a game between Stratton, who had won South 1 and had done a clean sweep of all trophies in the South, going for a complete grand slam, going up against Solway, who had won Division 1 North. I'd said right at the beginning of the 21-22 season that it looked like we might be heading that way. We got it, and it was, for those of us who watched it, one of the most intriguing and enthralling games we got across the entirety of last year. Seem very, very close at the moment in the north, as we know Solway and Whitley are going to go back and forth, back and forth. Widnes are starting to creep in, Billingham maybe creeping in a little bit as well, potentially. But it does look like at the moment we will be going, we might be heading back towards another version of that. And that game, even though it's 2 divisions worth below the Elite League, competitive hockey trumps hungover, nobody wants to be there hockey every day of the week. So 60 quid for the tickets, also for the tickets is fine, but a 12.5% booking fee on top of it. I'd be really, really interested to hear Planet Ice's rationale for this. They will, of course, have a rationale for it. I'm sure they will do. But 12.5%, particularly as well, given what's going on at the moment, is going to be hard for many people to swallow. Planet Ice will no doubt point to the fact that obviously costs for businesses are rising just as the costs for families are rising. I'd be really, really interested to hear what their rationale is. Now, I can see there from Jamie, of course, regular contributor to the show, that MK have sold out both their blocks, 3 quarters standing, as well as Lightning fans. And I know, and I've seen a few bits and pieces flying around from NK fans that they should have a higher allocation. I maintain what I said last week on the What's Current stream. No, they shouldn't. Whilst MK do travel well to Coventry every time, they're a very noisy, very dedicated fan base. We know what the Lightning Supporters Club are able to do in terms of their financial contribution to their team, but they are one team in an 11-team league at a weekend where you have to factor in the fans from 13 teams. Because remember, you've got those 2 Division 1 sides coming in on the Sunday as well. It is not fair to give the Lightning too big of an allocation. They are one club in an 11. All of the club give allocation that is kind of befitting where they are, what they're doing, and what has come before. I saw an MK fan asking why Basingstoke could be given 2 blocks, because Bison fans have travelled in numbers before. Former winners of the weekend, although Basingstoke haven't won since 2018, Bison fans travel in numbers. The same way Swindon fans travel in numbers. The same way Peterborough fans travel in numbers. The teams that have come through before, 1,000 plus season ticket holders to 300 seats plus standing, you can understand the frustration. I can understand the frustration. Lightning run weekend. It's not a weekend for Lightning fans. It's a weekend for a group, for the whole thing. And by all means as well, they're going to be frustrated. And this, I suppose, in some ways, was the joy of having Guildford in the league, is that a bunch of tickets will become available if they didn't make it. And I'm sure actually people will, plans will change, things will change, and more people will be able to come, and people won't be available at the drop of a hat. However, there has to be a bigger picture view involved here, which is it's not just about your team. This is a league-wide event that everybody deserves to have an opportunity to go to. And a fan of the Bees, with however many fans they have down in Slough, has as much right to expect to have a chance at that as an MK fan. As a Leeds fan who are probably going to travel in numbers this year, because let's face it, on the look of things, Leeds are probably going to make the weekend. As a Sheffield fan, Sheffield are probably going to travel with bigger numbers this year, given how given how well they did last year and how well they generally do in the playoffs anyway. I get the frustration of a lot of MK fans, but they do not have a divine right to have more numbers just off the back of that. 2 blocks is the most any team should have at the start. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel about that one, and I'm not going to be. And that's a red line for me. I'm not going to be convinced either way. We can obviously always have conversations in this place. This is, I'm not going to say this is some sort of wonderful free speech zone. There's no consequence to speech, because regular viewers will know that I don't believe in that kind of thing. There is a consequence to what you say. It's okay to have a red light and not be able to have your opinion changed, but still have the discussion. That's all right. That's cool too. Just looking through bits and pieces, of course, and we're just double checking. He says very, very quickly before we go too far, has anybody chucked anything into the excuse me, has anybody chucked anything into online very quickly before we start diving into the results? There's an update there, of course, from our friend Joe Scott's at NHL Stats. Is that and he's gone and used the Michael Bublé gif there, so he can lose points for that. Reallocating seats to teams who need more after people get a chance makes sense, but giving MK more seats before giving the other teams a chance doesn't. Thank you, MK Wee Racer. I think that is a very, very sensible way of looking at it. Once everybody's had a crack, open it up off the bat. No, I think that's a really fair and a really fun way of doing that. Just looking at other bits and pieces. Of course, news out of Hull. Yesterday, Ross Connolly has left the Seahawks, and they have signed an addition in the fact that Finley Ulrich from the Manchester Storm, Hull-born, of course, Finley Ulrich, will be icing for the Seahawks this weekend. Very interested to see how he gets on. Manchester, of course, not having the greatest of years, but Manchester are not known for being a top-end side in the Elite League at the moment. Where Connolly ends up, very, very interested to see. Could he be relocating down south? I do not know. So very, very interested to kind of see what happens there in Hull. And of course, the other big thing, the other big bit of news that we kind of need to talk about, because it's been talked about pretty much everywhere, is everybody and their mother has moved face-off times for this coming Saturday for the most part, due to the football. Now, I'm going to be honest right now. I have not managed to catch all of the changes. In terms of everything, hasn't updated bits and pieces either. What I'm aware of, I will let you know. I know that Hull have moved. Hull have moved their game. Basingstoke have moved their game. Should be. People. For me, at any rate, I'm not massively interested in the football. If England have been on, I've watched it. If Wales have been on, I've watched it. If Germany have been on, I've watched it. I don't live and die by international football so much. I'm much more of a club football fan than I am an international fan. But for the people who are really interested in this, and also from a financial aspect as well, for casual walk-up, I totally see why clubs have made that decision to have, to try and move these face-off times. It's going to cause a headache going forward, and it kind of makes you wish that the football was back in the summer where it should be. But I do understand, and for those people who want to be able to do both, I'm really happy that they're able to do both. I know certainly the Bison are having the game on in the bar in Basingstoke, and then just trying to letting everybody be able to watch the game in the bar, which actually, from business sense, particularly for a team like the Bison who are owned by Planet Ice, that's actually pretty smart on their part. Why encourage people to go elsewhere when they can kill two birds in one stone and get a bit of atmosphere whilst they watch the game as well? I'm going to be straight in the car and straight back down the motorway to my wife. To be perfectly honest, I'll listen in the car. Lots of frustration in MK with the situation there. PI at fault, not Lightning or Storm. Not sure. Is that to do with the football, I assume? Potentially, Jamie. But yeah, obviously it's not worked for everybody. It can't always work for everybody. Those who've been able to, I'm sure will find it interesting. Like I say, it's no skin off of my nose either way. I'm kind of treating it like I do Christmas jerseys. It's a thing people enjoy. It's not a thing I enjoy, but I'm not going to crap on people for being excited about it. It's not worth it. No point quashing the joy of others just for the sake of it. Just looking, I think that's all the other big news. Actually, apologies. The one thing we have missed, of course, was news out of Peterborough. Obviously, having released Tom Barry, and we'll talk about him in a bit for sure, because didn't he have a weekend? But Archie Salisbury signs his first senior contract with the Peterborough Phantoms. Now, I think I saw Kevin chat. I think he's a Peterborough fan. Very interested to hear from Phantoms fans what they hear about Archie getting a full-time contract. He certainly has looked very good this year. I know Slava mentioned, of course, when he released Tom Barry about wanting to bring those players on, some of those younger guys. Evidence thereof, I think. And like I say, for long-term viewers will know my feelings on the style of hockey that they play. But I can't, certainly in terms of some of the bits and pieces they've managed to do this year, Peterborough as an organisation appear to be doing some very, very good stuff, articulating themselves well when they've needed to do press releases. Showing justification for bits and pieces, bringing young talent through, and also as well, like I say, they're not a fun watch in my opinion, but they're bloody effective, really effective. And also this coming weekend, we're going to see just how effective they can be, because there is a massive game coming up in the context of the title this coming Saturday. Lightning can't move too early because the under-12s have a game at 4:30 and haven't played since October. A really unfortunate situation. Yeah, and it's not fair for the Lightning to just run roughshod over the kids either. I get why. A totally frustrating thing as well. You'll have a game of about 1,000 people half looking like this. Phone up. Yeah, unfortunate. But yeah, like I say, we're ice hockey, not football. The fact that, I can see why some people would be frustrated about it the best of times. But, like I say, for me, I'm turning up. I know I'll be all right. Things will be okay. As we appear to be out of news in the immediacy, he says, just having a quick squiz at stuff. I think in which case then, let's have a quick look at what happened last weekend in the NHL National Division. I say this only because it's Wednesday evening and I'm just interested to see whether the EIHA chuck out a discipline update at the moment, just because they do have a tendency to do this. I'll tell you what, before we go to the results, shall we quickly have a look and see if they've updated the disciplinary table. They haven't yet, no. Because sometimes the thing I've noticed is they will update that discipline table on the website before they update anything else. Anyway, let's have a quick squiz as to what happened last weekend in the National Division. And well, I'll start at the most obvious place for me, having written about it. The match report is there on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Basingstoke 6, Telford 3. In what really felt like a big sea change game for the Basingstoke Bison, having the defeat last weekend, their only game of the weekend against Hull, and looking disorganised and all over the place while doing it. The Bison, wherever they found it from, and a chunk of this, I think, was the fact that it feels like at times the Bison haven't got a lot of bounces in their games. They got bounces, and they got some really, really good secondary offense in this game, because in a 6-3 win, 4 goals from defence. From my money, the first time that, or at least the most goals in a game by defensemen in Basingstoke since a Declan Balmer hat-trick in March of 2016 against the Hull Pirates. 2 goals from Tom Barry on his debut, announced as being signed in Basingstoke at 5:30 in the afternoon. Shows up and shows out. Barry, of course, having been announced having signed for Widnes, is now on a 2-way with Basingstoke, which allows him to play 3 games before whatever happens there. You have to venture off the back of that performance. He's probably making himself a very, very strong case for Ashley Tate to need to have a very, very serious word with Richard Hagar in Widnes. But also as well, goals from Tom Banner, who scored in the second minute, his first goal of the campaign, and a goal from Brendan Baird. And then the forwards did actually bother to score eventually for Basingstoke. Zach Milton scoring the 5th, and Marcel Balach firing into the empty net. Goals in this one from the Tigers coming from Rick Plant, Vladimir Luka, who to his credit had a storming game for Telford in this, and Scott McKenzie. Now, if you want much more detail and depth on this game, it's all over there. bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. It's the top article on the site right now, right at the top of the page. So do go have a check of that, because there's I think certainly the thing for Basingstoke at the moment is that they cannot get to you're never as high as you feel at your highest and never as low as your lowest. Anthony, when you tweeted about Tom Barrow, so you mentioned the 3 games thing. Why is that? Why is it different for Ollie, for example, who's played for a lot of multiple teams? The difference is age. It's to do with development. You're not allowed to be multiply registered for same teams in the same league and pieces. You can be loaned out, but you can play at different levels. So a player like Ollie Hemmingsmay or Roman Cathcart, for example, because of their age, they are both 16. They're allowed to be registered with multiple teams. So those guys are registered with the Bison under 18s, the Buffalo, the Slough Jets, and the Bison. If you are over the age of 23, there is a maximum amount of games that you can play. It used to be 6. I believe it has now been. I believe it's been dropped because of I think it is higher or low, sorry, because due to age. So my understanding, having spoken to both the Bison and people familiar with how the structure works within the IHA leagues, Tom Barry's allowed to play 3 games for the Bison, and then he has to make a choice as to whether he stays with Widnes or transfers to Basingstoke. For his sake, I hope he makes a choice. Geographic locations: Merseyside and Hampshire. It's not the most geographically sensible. The most geographically sensible two-way, that's for damn sure. Apologies there, just having a few connection issues, but that's fine. But yeah, either way, all that stuff, Basingstoke and Telford over on the website. Otherwise, Saturday, Thunderdome, MK versus Sheffield, a repeat of the playoff final, and well, it goes the way of the Steel Dogs. 3-0 final score in this one. MK shut out at home for the first time. I can't remember how long. Matt Bissonette with 2. Alex Graham, and we'll talk about him in a bit as well, with the final goal. Dimitri Zamostra with the shutout, and a good 3-0 win there for MK, who just had an off night. And this is the problem, sometimes in hockey you can be a really, really good side, and sometimes you can be a good team and not play well, and you don't win. And that's all there is to it. And Sheffield are a very, very good side, and they're set up very well to play on the road. So winning a game like this, again, especially against a team like MK, who massively haven't sort of changed stylistically how they play compared to in April when this happened in the playoff final. Net minding is substantially better, though, it should be said. But either way, credit to Sheffield on getting that one out of the bag. Swindon at home against Hull. 2-0 up inside in the early stages, thanks to Tomasz Malazinski and Reid Sayers. Malazinski would then complete his hat-trick in the middle frame. Goals from Colby Tower, Russ Cowley, as well as a fourth at the night from Tomasz Malazinski. A 7-3 win for the Wildcats at home against the Seahawks. Jordan Fisher, Tom Stubley, and Andre Themar sparking a little bit of a comeback, scoring in the space of 4 minutes in the third period. But 6-3 down, they've kind of made the fourth goal goes into the empty net to wrap that game up. Bristol and Leeds. This was a very, very strange game when you consider the firepower of the Leeds Knights, because goalless through 40 minutes. And Jamie McElroy, who of course formerly of the 4000 Accounting podcast, is now commentates from time to time on the Steel Dogs webcast. Very, very much making himself a known voice and opinion in the NIHL bits and pieces. Really feels that Bristol are in a position where they're able to push on. He thinks they will make the playoffs at the expense of Bison. I respectfully, of course, disagree with him on that one. But holding Leeds down for 40 minutes to not scoring is a very, very impressive feat. It was quite a penalty laden game. 36 minutes worth of penalties in the second period alone in this one. But eventually in the third, the dam does break. Will Curlin is beaten. Cole Shudra, Kieran Brown, and an empty net goal from Adam Barnes sees the Knights skate out of the West Country with a 3-0 win. It was a home-and-home series actually across this weekend between the Raiders and the Phantoms. They met Saturday. 2-2 heading into the final period. This one, 2 goals from Harry Gulliver and goals from Jarvis Hunt and Alish Padalek, having the game tied at 2-2. And then in the final period, Peterborough do what Peterborough do and just making your day utterly miserable. Tom Norton and Lucas Sladkowski scored to make it 4-2. Brandon Ailiff pulls one back, but an empty net goal from Alish Padalek rounds that game out. 5-3 Peterborough win on the Saturday. And then we head into Sunday. And what happened between Peterborough and Romford on Sunday, which is basically everybody forgot to defend for the last 20 minutes on mark here, was Peterborough 4, Raiders 2. Glenn Billing making it 1-0. Tom Norton makes it 2-0. Aaron Connolly pulls one back. Alish Padalek makes it 3-1. Another goal from Connolly. And then Corey McEwen scores to make it 4-2. The final score, for those of you who haven't seen it from Peterborough on Sunday, was Peterborough Phantoms 10, Raiders 7. I got love for you if you were born in the 80s, and boy, was this game born in the 80s. What a ridiculous result that was. 4 goals for an utterly bizarre game. Callum Douglas, Martin Susters, Jasper Foster, Duncan Spears, and another one from Alex Padalek. Sorry, Alex Roberts scored. How many did Alex Roberts score here? Yes, he did score 4. He scored 4, and there was a goal for TJ Anderson as well, who scored for the Raiders in this one. Dimmy got man of the match by a mile. 45 shot shutout on Saturday. MK first shutouts at home since the 18th of February 2018 against the Manchester Storm. Blimey, that is impressive numbers there for the Lightning there. Yeah, not a great result for them Saturday. And then of course they didn't play. No, they didn't play on Sunday. I'm not losing me marbles. But either way, elsewhere on Sunday, Telford, well, they looked to rebound against Sheffield. Didn't go well for them. Jordan Buessa got the Steel Dogs on the board early. Jack Watkins made it 1-0. Scored a penalty shot. Vladimir Luka added a goal, as did Alex Graham and John Kirk. Ended up getting 2 of the night, and the game was relatively much in the Steel Dogs' favour by the end of the second period. Vladimir Luka did get another goal, but Alex Graham scored just after that. 6-3 final score. A 0-point weekend for the Tigers, a 4-point weekend for the Steel Dogs as that gap between the top half and the bottom half starts to elongate. I went home to watch the footy with Phantom 7-2 up and missed 8 goals. Oh, Rob! What have you done? You've had a howler. You've had an absolute howler. You saw 9 out of the 17 goals and missed the other 8. Oh, Rob. Oh, no. Oh, my man. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, buddy. Oh, no. I'm so sorry. Leave early. Never leave early. Oh, Rob, I'm so sorry, mate. I'm sorry for laughing. Otherwise, back on Sunday in the National Division, Hull and Bristol. And this game got a little bit tempestuous. Again, for Bristol, 2 games in a row in 2 nights with no goals through 40 minutes. In the third period, utterly implodes. Will Rizzo, Owen Sobchuk, Sam Smith, Ben Solder, and Bailey Harewood scoring the goals for the Pitbulls. Andre Themar gets 1 back for the Seahawks. A 5-1 game, and although a very, very tempestuous and very, very aggro-laden final period there, as the 2 teams sort of go to battle. A bit of a nasty hit at one point, sort of sparking a few things, and James Archer, of all people, getting a match penalty for fighting. So we know there's going to be some sort of disciplinary coming out of this for Hull. I'd be interested to see potentially whether it does get downgraded. I don't know whether it will, but certainly I know the feeling from a lot of Hull fans was that that it was quite a bad hit, and the players took it upon things to police themselves. The issue there for Hull is that they were in a really good position and they were on top and they were putting shot after shot after shot on curling. One bad incident and they lose their composure and lose their cool. And Bristol have pay. And talk about from Sunday. It finally happened. It's finally happened. The Leeds Knights lose in regulation, and not only do they lose in regulation, but they lose the latest instalment of the Nell Classico as they lose at home to Swindon, and they were a goal up inside a minute as well through Kieran Brown, the Knights. But goals from Aaron Nell, Tomasz Malazinski, and Colby Tower, because it was 2 goals from Aaron Nell. 4-1 final score, a 5th win in the row for the Wildcats as well. Actually, don't knock that one. They've had points in the last 7, won the last 5. A lot of people were wondering about what was happening with Swindon this year. Their inconsistency, where the Bison had just lost lots of games, and other teams had lost lots of games. Swindon had lurched completely, whiplashing from being amazing to being terrible to amazing to terrible, and they've started to get on a bit of a run now. And that could prove problematic. Aaron Nell finding his groove. Tomasz Malazinski finding his groove. Colby Tower finding his groove. Some of the secondary scoring will hopefully start kicking in for Swindon as well. They will cause some really, really big problems, especially if Rennie Marr and Dean Skins get their eye in. But Leeds finally lose. They finally do not pick up a point from a game, and it only took until December. This team are ridiculous, and 1 loss in regulation is not going to severely dent this train. It really, really looks like Leeds are going and gunning for this league title, and I would be very interested to see what happens this weekend, especially considering who they have to play. Either way, that's the National Division in terms of its results for this weekend. We will, of course, have a very, very quick look at the table. We don't need to look at the cup table because we already know who's qualified for that. But we do have a very, very interesting situation at the top of the National League at the moment. The Leeds Knights are still top, of course, but they're not alone in the points. Leeds have 40 points from 22 games with just the one regulation loss all season. But Peterborough also have 40 points as well. They have played one more game and aren't ahead on the tiebreaker right now, but they do have 40 points as well. This game between the two on Saturday is going to be huge. The MK Lightning, they're in third place at the moment, 35 points from their 22 games played. Obviously, that defeat on Saturday against Sheffield has seen them drop down. Sheffield themselves, they have 31 points from 22 games. They are in fourth. Swindon's good weekend sees them in fifth place. They have 27 points from 22. A 0-point weekend for the Telford Tigers. They are 5 points back of Swindon, having played 3 more games. 25 games played now for the Tigers and 22 points, which means they could be caught by a number of teams, actually. Raiders have 19 points from 22. They could catch them. And so, technically, could Basingstoke now. 17 from 22 after the Bison's first 4-point weekend for quite some time. The Bison occupy the last playoff spot currently. Bristol are in ninth. They have 15 from 23. How will they fare without some of their GB under 20 players this weekend? 4 players gone from the roster for this upcoming weekend. The Bees have 12 from 23. The Seahawks have 6 points from 24. They prop up the NIHL National Division at the moment. Questions, comments, anything else that we can see there in the chat? What do you make of Bristol replacing Roberts? Not sure what to make of him being on 1 point per game because as a team they weren't doing great. I've talked about it a little bit, MKW, in the sense that I think they signed Alex Roberts wanting him to do one thing and he doesn't do what they want him to do. I think they wanted him to be much more Owen Sobchuk-like, able to kind of do a little bit of everything. And that's not Alex Roberts' game. Alex Roberts is a sniper. And what you need to do is you need to put him with somebody who's going to set him up. And that's kind of what it is on that front. I know there were some people, there was a bit of back and forth between Raiders fans and Bison fans, because Bison a few Bison fans thinking that Bison fans were bitter about it. And ultimately, it's just kind of Alex Roberts was in Basingstoke and the Bison needed to make some substantive structural changes to their roster, which meant Alex Roberts didn't fit or potentially wanted too much money, potentially both. He's then gone to Bristol where he has not been, where his coach appears to wanted him to do one thing and that's not how he plays the game. And now he's in Romford and having had an absolute mare of a first game for the Raiders, 8-0 defeat when you've been hired to score goals is a very, very bad look. Now he's obviously sort of lit himself on fire a little bit, but the Raiders haven't won, which is problematic for them. We'll see how he does, of course, when he's back, because he'll be back this weekend playing for the Raiders against Basingstoke in Basingstoke. He hasn't done much when he visited with Bristol, so we'll see what happens there. I think Bristol needed to kind of get someone who they felt was going to just wanted to play their way, and I think that's kind of what it is on that front. Hopefully, this new guy will do the business for them. Worrying for everyone, Tomasz Franzinski's found his groove now. Yeah, definitely. Terrifying because he's still very, very good. Great to see Sam Talbot now on the two-way between MK and Coventry. Something we talked about during the week. Massive for him. Still, for me, I think probably the better all-round player out of him and Sean Norris. Coventry as well, arguably, need a depth centre. So Talbot being able to step in. I know Coventry got an incredibly busy December and early January, so having an extra body that they're able to call on in Sam Talbot will be massive for them anyway. Also, having chatted to a very good friend of mine, Stu Coles, who is one of the commentators for the webcast that Coventry do. They're very interested to kind of see what he can do there. Delighted. I mean, Romford fans definitely give as good as they get on that front. So I'm not necessarily sure that people were sort of being, some people, tone cannot always be judged on the internet, and I think sometimes you have to cut people a little bit of slack sometimes. But I think Bison fans and Romford fans will kind of give as good as they get, so I wouldn't hold too much by it. 5 Lightning players in the GB under 20 team: Crow, Martelli, Hopkins. Of course, Martelli added because of Cade Nielsen withdrawing. Max Stewart and Zane McKenzie. I'm really excited to see what Zane McKenzie can do actually in this roster, because there's obviously a lot of the top end guys there for MK. Whether Crow plays or not, I don't know. But I think Zane McKenzie for GB at U20 level, so I'm really, really pleased for him. I'm really pleased for him. He backed himself to leave MK last year and join the Bees to get more ice time when he could have just stayed on the bench and not done anything at MK. And MK have kind of rewarded him by letting him come back. And people like him and Callum Field have been able to kind of really contribute from depth this year. Halden Barnes Garner as well. Like, there's obviously a lot more points in the top end of that MK roster. Just like, I'm really pleased to see what Zane McKenzie can do. Eventually, he'll probably be on the fourth line for the GBU 20s. And speaking of GB as well, good results I see so far for the GP Para ice hockey team. I missed the end of that final score against France, but they were winning and obviously gave Thailand a proper slapping about at World. So congratulations there. Let's just double check that very, very quickly as we have a look, because we obviously want GB Para ice hockey to do well as well. Any GB team to do well would be brilliant. Let's just double check. 7-0 GB won against France. So that's 2 for 2. They play tomorrow at 11 a.m. UK time against Austria in the Para Ice Hockey World Championships group that they're playing in. So we send our best to Team GB for that one. MK is obviously a very, very useful place to use. Cheaper than using the NIC, I venture. On that front, I keep getting this in the notification that my connection is unstable. I'm not entirely sure why, because nothing else says I've got an unstable connection, but hey-ho. Either way, National Division, done. Let's have a quick look through Division 1 in that case. So let's head into Division 1 in the North, as we usually do. Not tons of games, of course, this past weekend, but a very, very good weekend for the Solway Sharks. Whitley, no games this weekend, so it was imperative for Solway to keep stamping their authority on the league. They were the only game in town on Saturday in Division 1 North, and an 8-0 shutout win for the Solway Sharks in that one. So not just the win, not just 2 points, not just beating away Billingham, who of course have been slowly creeping up this North 1 table, but also goals on the board as well, because you never know, given how close it is between Solway and Whitley, just how much of an issue goals for and goals against will be. Connection issues from mine. Yeah, apologies about that. Hopefully it sort of sorts itself out. I don't know I'm not sure what my wife's watching on Disney Plus at the moment, so maybe that's causing me issue. Either way, that was the only game on Saturday. Sunday, Billingham do rebound. Billingham managed to rebound. They win 6-3 at home at the Forum against the Blackburn Hawks. Blackburn, who we've had some rumblings out of after a recent incident that they've mentioned on one of their Facebook pages. But either way, another defeat for Blackburn as they go on, and another defeat for the Sheffield Scimitars. They've had a wretched season so far, just the 1 point at the bottom of the table, and a 7-0 away defeat at Hobbsmoat Road against the Solihull Barons is definitely not going to help things there. Well, Solway had a bit of a tougher Sunday evening away in Widnes, and it goes all the way into overtime, but the Sharks pull out the win 4-3 in overtime in Widnes. Is a huge result in the context of what's to come, particularly as well with I don't want to say they have an easy game, but they should have an easier tie. They are at home against Sheffield, who of course, as we know, have not scored a point for quite some time. We'll have a quick scoot then at the table in now, Solway have played more games. They have 31 points from 17 games. Whitley, 25 from 15. So Solway do hold the advantage of points, even with those games in hand. They can't be caught by the Warriors at the moment. But the last thing Solway are going to want to do is give the Warriors any ground whatsoever. Billingham, despite their mixed weekend, they stay in third place. They have 22 from 17, followed by Widnes, who've got their point obviously from the weekend. They have 17 from 14. So they, of course, could catch and overtake Billingham if they won their games in hand. Solihull in fifth, 15 from 13, followed by Blackburn, who have 10 from 15. The Nottingham Lions, our friends here at the What's Current stream, have 8 points from 14 games. Of course, they could catch the Hawks. Deeside, who will return home for the first time in 1,000 days on Saturday. They have 2 points from 6 games as they will look to catch up on their schedule. And then, as we said, the Scimitars, 15 games played, a solitary point, only 26 goals scored in those 15 games. They've conceded 97. And given that they're away at Whitley this coming weekend, you venture that goals against column is going to break the 100-goal barrier. They'll be the first team in the league to concede over 100 goals this season. But that means we then head down south into South One. And again, a very bizarre turnaround in the fact that again in South One, just the one game on Saturday, and having been at the last encounter in Gosport between these two sides, another tight and testy affair down on the south coast. So due to their ineligible usage of Vanya Antonov at the beginning of the season, which means the Southern Cup is not an option for them. The league is all that is left for the Red Hawks. They are going to be laser focused on doing that job there, and a big win in regulation to deny Solent some points. Those, like I say, if you ever get the opportunity to go to a game between these two sides, definitely take them. They are fascinating encounters. Games in from Sunday, Solway, yeah, gone crazy. Solent, opposite end of the country there. Well, they rebound from their defeat on Saturday evening. They travel to Chelmsford. They only scored 2 goals again, but this time a 2-1 win for the Devils at the Riverside against the Chelmsford Chieftains. A low-scoring but high-intensity game there between those two sides. A big win as well for the Oxford City Stars when it comes to avoiding the wooden spoon. They defeat the MK Thunder by 4 goals to 3. And in Streatham, well, it was close for Junior Raiders by 11 goals to 3 in Streatham on Sunday evening. Which means that the South One table looks like this. Having played 11 games, and with just the one loss in league play, the Red Hawks are top 20 points from 11 games. That win against Solent, of course, proving massively important. Solent have played a game more and have 2 points less. They have 18 from 12. Slough then are in third place. They have 14 points from 11, so a bit of a drop down. Followed by Chelmsford, who have 10 points from 11 games. Invicta have 8 from 11. Romford have 7 from 7, so obviously some catching up to do there. They could advance up the table if they win some of their games in hand. Oxford have 6 from 10 following their win over the MK Thunder, who remain at the bottom, 3 points from their 9 games this year. Into North 2 in that case, not huge amount. Only games in this league on Saturday. No Sunday games in North 2 this past weekend, but both title challengers very much in the mix. The one game without the title challengers sees a win for bottom of the table Bradford. Obviously, a very competitive league. But Bradford almost looked like they were going to fall away, but they get a huge result at home. They win 6-3 against the Altrincham Aces to try and keep pace with the teams above them. And then, of course, our 2 big title challenges in North 2, whether the Hull Jets and the Telford Tigers. Hull were at home at the World's Most Versatile Arena in one of the last league and cup games on the docket. They have got a big 5-3 win against the Sheffield Titans, which did put pressure later in the evening on the Telford Tigers at home against the Coventry NHL Blaze, and they squeak out the 5-4 win there. And given the fact that there'll be pretty much a reverse of games next weekend, it'd be very, very interesting to see how the two teams fare against each other. We'll go into the fixtures later, but Hull are away at Coventry, Telford at home to Sheffield, which means that we will, like I say, who will trip each other up and who could potentially be a kingmaker when it comes to North 2. Either way, Telford with their win, of course, they do remain top. They have 28 points in their 15 games played, but they have played 3 games more than Hull, 22 from 12. Those two teams still, games against each other are going to be huge in the not too distant future. There is a massive drop off though from second to third. Altrincham have 14 from 13 following their defeat away in hand. Could push them clear in third. In fifth place, the Sheffield Titans, they have 11 from 14. The Coventry NHL Blaze have 9 from 14. Bradford leap up into 7th spot now. They have 8 points from 12, followed closely behind, though, by the Nottingham Lions. Second team, they have 7 points from their 12 games. Which leaves us with South 2 and the absolute the roller coaster ride that this league has been, as we've seen the new ones on the block pushing their way through to the top of the table. But before we get to the big game of that weekend, let's just go through the other results as well, because there were quite a few games on Saturday. Cardiff Fire, they win down in Cardiff Bay, a 6-4 win for them in the League and Cup over the Basingstoke Buffalo. Haringey Huskies get a big win as well in league plays. They look to keep pace at the top of the table. They win 4-3 away in Chelmsford against the Warriors. And also Peterborough looking to pull themselves up the table a little bit. 5-4 overtime win in Gillingham against the Invicta Mustangs. But the big game on Saturday was the old masters versus the new. Last year's Grand Slam winning league champion Guildford Phoenix against the Bristol Pitbulls, top of the league now, and a huge, huge win for Guildford. 4-3 they win in regulation in the Spectrum against the Pitbulls in league and cup action. And massive statement by the Phoenix there as they continue to try and claim back the glories of last year, despite having lost players to leagues above them. Sunday, then, there were a couple of games. One of the other teams that's been challenging towards the top of the table, the Stretton Blackhawks, get a hard-fought 3-0 victory away in Basingstoke against the Buffalo. A bad weekend for the Buffalo as they look to secure playoff hockey for another year. And also Solent Junior Devils, they still remain winless and pointless. They lose at home 8-4 to the Oxford Rising Stars. Which means if we have a quick squiz at the table, because of course we'll just double check the cup permutations there. In the driving seat in Group A, though Bristol still have 2 games in hand on most of the teams above them, and 4 games in hand on Guildford when it comes to cup play. So definitely potential for Bristol to move up in Group A. In Group B, Streatham have already qualified because of their record in the cup. They are 7-1 from their 8 games. Haringey look like they should qualify. They are 4 points clear of they're 4 points clear of Chelmsford, having played a game less. So you would venture that Haringey will probably manage to squeak their way through there. But Chelmsford and Cardiff are mathematically not out of things in the Southern Cup. In the league itself, though, that result for Bristol has really thrown things amongst the pigeons. Haringey, though, remain top at the moment. That win for them proving massively important. They have 23 points from their 14 games. Though Guildford have pulled themselves, and that league title in South is going to be huge. We have Guildford, Bristol, and Streatham all on 20 points. Guildford have played 13 games. Bristol have played 12. Streatham have also played 12. So with those two, so a couple of sides with points and games in hand on Haringey, and depending who those games in hand will be against, because there's teams further down the table. Swindon have only played 8 games. Lee Valley and Solent have only played 11 games. There's potential that the Huskies are going to have to keep looking over their shoulder for some time to come. Invicta are in 5th. They have 17 from 12, followed by Cardiff and Peterborough. They both have 14. The Fire have played 14 games to the Phantoms 11. You'd venture the Phantoms might be able to pick up a few points and overtake them in 6th. 8th at the moment is the Oxford Rising Stars. They have 12 from 15. The issue is in 9th, Chelsea have 10 points, but have 4 games in hand on Oxford. They drop down to being the lowest placed team with any points. Lee Valley and Solent both have played 11 games. Both are yet to score a point this season. But there we go then. We've gone all the way through it. All the divisions of the NIHL structure have been covered. We've gone through at least a bit of every game, which means questions, comments, anything anybody wants to throw into the chat, please do so. We really appreciate it if you wanted to do that. We'll talk a little bit then, as we probably need to, about Alex Graham. So obviously, GB Under 20s headed out to go and play in the U20 World Championships in Lithuania on the first day of the championship, which is, not impressive. Massively frustrating thing. And there's obviously been a lot flying around. There's been an article that was published by Bob Westerdahl in the Sheffield Star about an incident reporting that there was an incident on the plane and flight staff were worried about his actions. Now, what digging around I've been able to do from my side, I can't confirm anything apart from what is there. And that is that, he has the team's disciplinary code was breached. As soon as they got into Lithuania, they've sent him home. And that's all I have on that front. The frustration here is that Alex Graham should have been leading this roster. Arguably, should have been the captain of this roster. And he's now gone home. I haven't seen whether they have named a replacement. Should Alex Graham now play for either Steelers or Steel Dogs for the next 2 weeks? How long they keep him out, I don't know. I venture what they will probably do is probably just let him sit for a week. Yeah, probably let him sit for at least a week. I wouldn't play him this weekend. Aside from that, the travel is just going to be shattered. What would be the point? You sit him down and you send him away to go think about what he's done and try and sort those bits and pieces out, I think. That which is, like I say, it's frustrating. Alex Graham should be leading this group into battle, and he's made a pig's ear of the situation. There we go. That is what it is. Actually, Mac, to his credit, has just tweeted something out here. Here's the breakdown of the Alex Graham situation. Does he deserve to get sent home? Yes. Was it an incident that put others in danger or caused our nation and reputation damage? No. Is the matter class as dealt with by those involved? Yes. Move on. None of your business. I obviously have a lot of time for Mac, and I really respect him. I don't think that there needs to be a complete sort of detailed sort of drilling down into everything that happened. I think the statement from Ice Hockey UK is probably enough, but I think the fact people are going to discuss their opinions and bits and pieces, and I think people are allowed to voice their frustration that probably arguably one of our best young players who should be playing in this tournament has made a pig's ear of this and has had to be sent home. What I'm interested to see is how the Steelers and the Steel Dogs organizations deal with that. What Alex Graham needs right now is really strong people around him to kind of sit down with him, look at the mistake he's made, and make sure it doesn't happen again. I think that's the really big thing for Alex right now, is to he needs to learn from this. Mistakes are fine. We all make mistakes. And Alex Graham is 19, 20 years old. He's not supposed to be perfect. None of us are. I'm nearly 40 and I will make mistakes on the daily. I'll say the wrong thing, have the wrong opinion, and we will all unfortunately upset people as we walk through life. But what Alex Graham needs right now is he needs his people in his circle, the people that will properly sit him down and work through this with him, and not just fob it off, to sit down with him and just go, right, you need to learn from this and you need to move on. Alex Graham is a really phenomenal hockey player. He really shouldn't be in the NIHL, arguably. The Steelers should have grit their teeth and pushed on with him and had him in the Elite League this year and be bleeding him in properly. But that's obviously, that's a conversation for another time when a View from the Bridge finally get me on. But the frustration there is that this will be a setback from him, but it's only a setback if he lets it be a setback. Hopefully setback can be the setup for the comeback, as it were, and hopefully he'll be able to press forward from that. So yeah, there we go. Still having this connection trouble is even listing about, which is interesting. Not entirely sure why it's saying that, but such is life on that one. Questions, comments, anything anybody wants to chuck in the chat, because obviously we're heading towards the 9 o'clock mark now. We will obviously press on a little bit. Not entirely sure what is happening with the internet connection. Just seen Brandon Whistle score a really nice goal for Sheffield versus Cardiff. I mean, fair play. I was going to say, I think that's just the one I can sort of see on there as well. That looks very impressive. If that's the thing there. Some news actually out of Bristol, I can see now from a few minutes ago. The Bristol Honda Pitbulls are very sad to announce that for reasons out of our control, our Bristol Bulldogs are ordered by fans. They're currently stuck. We've been working hard to get some information as to when they'll arrive, but we cannot confirm if they'll arrive in time for Saturday. The plan for the Bulldogs game is to keep it against the Bees, meaning it would be moved to February. Of course you have. There's the Brandon Whistle goal, yeah. That is a very, very nice goal, actually. A very, very nice goal from Brandon Whistle. So there we go. There we go. There it is. There it is. Swindon with the hardest double away in the league this weekend. Yeah, eventually they probably do. Either way, let's have a quick bash through the fixtures for this upcoming weekend. And we'll start as we do it in the National Division. Now, for the National Division, I'm not going to announce any face-off times, purely because, like I say, everything has been moved. So don't take what I say as gospel. Please, if you're travelling to games this weekend because of the football on Saturday, check with the team, the home team, as to what time the face-off is before you travel. That is my advice for you this weekend. But the one game we know that probably isn't going to in Swindon, it's the West Country Derby, and one of the few remaining League and Cup games is between the Swindon Wildcats and the Bristol Pitbulls. Saturday then, like we say, we're not going to mention any face-off times because most of them can't be moved. The one that hasn't been moved, we know, is 7 p.m. The MK Lightning and the Swindon Wildcats at the Thunderdome. As we said, a tough weekend for Swindon there. Otherwise, the other games in the National Division from Saturday, Basingstoke take on the Raiders. I definitely know that is a 4:45 face-off in Basingstoke. Bristol at home against the Bees. Hull at home against Telford. I do believe that's been moved back to 4:45. And then probably one of the biggest games of the season so far in the context of the league title, Leeds Knights and the Peterborough Phantoms. Level on points. Leeds with a game in hand. This game could be huge in the context of where the National Division title goes for this coming season. Then Sunday, where we know things aren't going to be moved because of the football, 4:30 p.m. face-off up in Ice Sheffield, the Steel Dogs take on the Basingstoke Bison. A 5:15 face-off at Sapphire Ice and Leisure. The Raiders take on the Leeds Knights. 5:30 in Peterborough, the Phantoms take on the Wildcats in what's going to be an absolute mare of a weekend there for Swindon. A game at home and then two horrible away games there. And a 6 p.m. face-off in Telford for the Tigers against the MK Lightning. And then the other game then on Sunday is also a 7 p.m. face-off. Bristol. No, sorry, that's Saturday. Well, I can't read. What am I reading? I've gone too far. That's my own fault. I learned to read, everybody. Just read far too far down my run sheet there. I managed to make a pig's ear of that. 4:30 for Leeds on Saturday. That'll help, I'm sure. That's great though, isn't it? A 4:30 p.m. face-off. Definite probable finish there by 7 o'clock for everybody to get the football in the need. So well done to them on that front. Too far. North 1 for this coming weekend for the 10th and 11th. So Saturday the 10th. I assume, given they're in Wales, they're not going to have changed the face-off time for this one. But as I said, for the first time in 1,000 days, the Deeside Dragons return home and they open up their home schedule for this season at 5:15 on Saturday against the Nottingham Lions. The Deeside Dragons are then back in action on Sunday. They travel to the Forum in Billingham to take on the Stars at 5:30. 5 p.m. face-off on Sunday at Hillheads. The Whitley Warriors take on the Sheffield Scimitars. Hopefully they've got a video crew this time, or at least a camera. 6 p.m. face-off at Blackburn. The Hawks take on the Widnes Wild. And then a 7 p.m. face-off for the Nottingham Lions. They take on the Solihull Barons. I hope they potentially get an opportunity to move that face-off back. Otherwise, I don't think there's going to be much of a crowd at the CCM pad at the NIC for that one. Maybe we'll have to, maybe a few of us will split screen that one and try and support our friends from the Lions. Either way, South 1 for this coming Saturday. 5:15 face-off at Sapphire Ice and Leisure for the Romford Junior Raiders against the Solent Devils. A game that is Southern Cup only at the Hangar. The Slough Jets take on the MK Thunder at 6:30. League action, though, on the High Road at 5:30 p.m. on Saturday. As far as we're aware, that face-off has not been changed between the Streatham Redhawks and the Chelmsford Chieftains. Sunday in South 1, the 6:15 face-off in Oxford. The City Stars take on the Slough Jets. 6 p.m. at the Riverside, the Chieftains head home to take on the Romford Junior Raiders in that local derby. At 6:45 p.m. face-off for the MK Thunder. They take on the Streatham Redhawks in league action. We did briefly mention, of course, the fact that the title contenders in League Two have got a reverse of what came the weekend before. 2 games on Saturday in North 2, a 7 p.m. face-off in Telford. The Tigers take on the Sheffield Titans, and the Coventry NIHL Blaze host the Hull Jets at 7:30 p.m. at the Sky Dome. Just one game this coming Sunday in North 2. It's a 4:15 face-off in Altrincham between the Aces and the Nottingham Lions. 3 p.m. Deeside, I believe. Well, that would make sense. That's good of them to move that. That's chucked everything back nice and early for that. And then so South 2, the last fixtures, a couple on Saturday, 5:30 p.m. at Chelmsford, the big local derby in South 2 there, the Chelmsford Warriors against the Invicta Mustangs. 6:30 p.m. In Peterborough for the Phantoms against the Swindon Wildcats. A couple of games then on Sunday. Bristol versus Guildford in Bristol. It's a 5 p.m. face-off for in South 2 there. The reverse of last week. But then also a big game for the league leaders, the Haringey Huskies. They travel all the way down to the Bay to take on the Cardiff Fire at 6:45. Also a 6:45 p.m. face-off on the High Road. The Streatham Blackhawks take on the Chelmsford Warriors. That's it. That's the fixtures for this coming weekend. We will call last call as we have already hit 9 o'clock. We've been going for about an hour. Have a drink of water because my throat's gone dry. But I think given that our friends from A View from the Bridge are about to start, we will actually probably, like I say, because I'm starting to flag a little bit for the food coma I put myself into earlier. Another reason why MK can't be by there is Red Bull having events at CMK on Saturday as well. Well, they're frustrating for MK, but unfortunately, that's the way of the world sometimes. We'll see what happens to the crowd at MK, though. We'll see what happens to the crowd at MK. But like I said, unfortunately, because due to time, I'm going to call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for everything relating to the bases at Bison. Player comings, player goings, match reports, as well as our Hockey Story series. We have a new interview coming Friday. I was working a pretty hardcore job at the same time. Banners on the Wall this coming Friday. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com and catch our interview, our new Hockey Stories interview with Seahawks defenseman Tom Ralph about working in the hospitality industry whilst having a career in hockey. As well as also on the website is the back catalogue of the old BOTW podcast and the and our tabletop ice hockey game, Dice Hockey, downloadable for free. You can get everything on there for free, but if you do enjoy it, please do consider making a donation to Parkinson's UK. That'd be hugely appreciated. Facebook.com/banners on the wall if you like to get all the bits and pieces through your Facebook feed. Make sure to go over and like the page there. But the best place to keep tabs on commentary on what's happening in the NHL and British hockey in general, as well as bits and pieces that will go on the website, is over on Twitter @BannersOTW. And then, of course, you can get the link there for this wonderful thing. Wednesday night, 8 p.m, the NHL's first, and as far as we're only live show to cover all 5 divisions. Where you are right now, the BOTW What's Current String. Another week done. And it looks like we're going to have a pretty crazy weekend as everybody tries to fit in around the football. But wherever you go, and hopefully the football result won't elate or depress you too much, but try as your best. Be happy. And if you can't be happy, then please do be safe. As my friend Scotty Wills would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For Banners on the Wall, WordPress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. Well, I suppose after this weekend, we'll find out potentially whether it really is coming home or not. Take care, everyone.